Welcome back to Midnight Storeis, your go-to channel for deep dives into true crime cases from around the world. Today we're traveling to Sweden to unravel one of the most chilling cases in recent history, the Knutby Pastor Case. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We post episodes up to twice a week, bringing you true crime stories you won't want to miss. Now let's get into today's story, which centers around a religious community that took a dark turn and resulted in murder, manipulation, and a country shaken to its core. Knutby is a small village in Sweden, relatively unknown before the events of January 2004. The village became infamous when a horrific crime exposed dark secret within a tight-knit religious group known as the Philadelphia Congregation. Founded in 1921, the church was rooted into Pentecostal tradition, but over the years it evolved into something far more extreme under the leadership of Helge Fossmo and Åsa Waldau. At the heart of the church's unique beliefs was Åsa Waldau, who proclaimed herself to the Bride of Christ. This doctrine, which claimed she would be raptured to heaven in a divine marriage with Christ, was central to the group's teachings. Waldau's influence over the congregation grew, and her position became absolute. Followers believed they were in a spiritually elite group destined for salvation. But as with many such secrets, power dynamics shifted into manipulation and control. The Knutby case shocked Sweden on the morning of January 10, 2004, when two violent incidents took place. Aleksandra Fossmo, the wife of Pastor Helge Fossmo, was found dead in her bed after being shot 3 times in the head. A few hours later, Daniel Linda, a neighbor and close associate with the church, was shot but survived. The person who confessed to both crimes was Sara Svensson, the nanny of the Fossmo family and a devoted member of the congregation. Sara, who had already attacked Aleksandra once in 2003 with a hammer, claimed that she was acting under divine instruction, orders relayed to her through text messages she believed were from God. These messages, as the investigation later revealed, were orchestrated by none other than Helge Fossmo. Sara Svensson had developed a deep dependence on Fossmo, who manipulated her both emotionally and psychologically. At the time of the crime, she was dealing with feelings of religious inadequacy, which Fossmo exploited by convincing her that carrying out the murders was the will of God. Fossmo's control over Svensson was profound. He manipulated her through hundreds of text messages using religious language to justify the killings. Svensson would later describe herself as a slave to Fossmo's desire, obeying him without question. Despite initially claiming full responsibility for the murders, the police grew suspicious of Svensson's story, realizing that she had not acted alone. Helge Fossmo, initially seen as a grieving widower, quickly became a suspect. Fossmo's history raised red flags. His first wife, Helena, had died in 1999 under suspicious circumstances. Her death, initially ruled an accident, was later reconsidered with forensic evidence suggested she may have been drugged with a powerful painkiller before drowning her in her bathtub. However, Fossmo was never convicted for her death. The investigation into Aleksandra's murder revealed that Fossmo had been having multiple affairs, including one with Sara Svensson. Another affair involved Annette Linde, the wife of Daniel Linde, who was also targeted in the murder plot. Fossmo's motive for orchestrating the murder of his wife appeared to be his desire to continue these relationships, as divorce would have cost him his position within the church. Fossmo had become deeply entwined with Åsa Waldau, whom he supported in her claim to be the bride of Christ. Fossmo would later claim that Waldau influenced him to control the congregation through fear and spiritual manipulation, although Waldau has constantly denied direct involvement in the murders. The atmosphere within the Philadelphia congregation was one of strict control and obedience. Waldau, as the bride of Christ, wielded immense power, and members were expected to follow her unconditionally. Those who questioned her or Fossmo were shunned and abstracts. Former members have described her congregation as a cult, where psychological abuse was rampant, and leaders used their position to exploit vulnerable individuals. Sara Svensson was one of those individuals, drawn into a complex web of manipulation where her faith was used as a tool for violence. The trial following Aleksandra's murder captured the attention of the entire country. In 2004, Helge Fossmo was sentenced to life in prison for inciting the murder of his wife and the attempted murder of Daniel Linde. Sara Svensson was found to have acted under severe psychological distress and was sentenced to psychiatric care, where she remained until her release in 2011. Waldau, despite her proximity to the event and her role as the congregation leader, was not charged with any involvement in the murder plot. However, her reputation was permanently damaged, and public sentiment towards her was overwhelmingly negative. The Knutby Sect officially disbanded in 2016 after years of dwindling support and increasing scrutiny. Many former members have come forward describing years of emotional abuse and control by both Fossmo and Waldau. The Swedish public remained captivated by the case, particularly as more details emerged about the inner workings of the church and its toxic dynamics. In 2020, Waldau and two other former pastors were convicted of physical and psychological abuse of church members, with Waldau receiving a conditional sentence and community service. Helge Fossmo, the mastermind behind the murders, served many years in prison but was granted conditional release in 2021 after multiple appeals. During his time in prison, Fossmo remarried in 2007 and has kept a low profile since his release. Not much is known about his current whereabouts or activities. Sara Svensson, who was released from psychiatric care in 2011, has also maintained a low profile. Her case remains one of the most striking examples of psychological manipulation without a religious setting. Åsa Waldau, the self-proclaimed bride of Christ, has since changed her name and lives outside the public eye. Despite her central role in the Knutby congregation, Waldau has largely avoided further legal consequences for the events that unfolded under her leadership. The Knutby case left an indelible mark on Sweden, sparking discussions about religious extremism, psychological manipulation, and the power dynamics within isolated communities. It remains one of the country's most notorious criminal cases, covered extensively by the media, and even featured in a 2021 HBO documentary series, Pray, Obey, Kill. The case continues to resonate with audiences as an example of how faith can be twisted into a dangerous tool for control and violence. That's the story of the Knutby Pastor Case, a tragic tale of manipulation, murder, and the dark side of faith. If you found this case as gripping as we did, make sure to subscribe to Midnught Storeis for more deep dives into true crime from around the world. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.